Fellas, let's talk about the NFL draft. We'll talk about Shador in just a second. Overall, which team, in your opinion, impressed you or unimpressed you in the draft? I think the Giants did excellent because you're getting Abdul Carter, you get Cam Scatterboo. So now you add a running back to the offense. Now you add your defensive line. So it's going to be tough for Washington, Dallas, and Philadelphia because of that defensive line with Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence. So that's really good. I love the fact that Tampa, and I was watching Champ on TikTok, Undisputed World Champ. Please go follow and like and subscribe to his podcast every Saturday nights, 9 p.m. He talked about one Desmond Watson, and how he and Vita Vey, could they be the potential of ending the tush push? Now, Desmond Watson weighed in at 464 pounds at his Florida Pro Day. He's now down to 437. Probably needs to get down to at least 370, I think. But I did like what the Bucks did as far as getting another wide receiver because obviously Chris Godwin with injuries, so you give Baker another target. And I got to be honest with you, Washington, I love what I saw from Washington. They got the offensive lineman from Oregon. They got another deep threat because again, De'Ami Brown is gone. He's now in Jacksonville. I'm still concerned about the pass rush though, but I think over time it will be fine. So I love what I've seen. And of course, with UBRF, because you mentioned it last week on the pod, Atlanta, some of the
I
moves
love what
that
they
they got.
did. I love what they did. I love people. And here's the thing: I've been seeing like a lot of mixed reviews about Atlanta's draft. I love Atlanta's draft. I love Atlanta's draft. I feel like that is a minimum. That was a minimum B plus draft. Talking A, like to the crazy thing about it, the James Pierce deal, the trade that they made, they were going to take him at 15 because James Pierce came into the draft as a, I think he was one of the top three pass rushers coming into the draft. I think he's the most pro ready defensive end coming in right now. I think he's the most pro ready. The Falcons were going to take him at 15. Jalen Walker drops to them. If I'm Terry Fontenot, I see Jalen Walker available. I have no choice. You have no choice but to take an athlete of Jalen Walker stature. And then the biggest thing that people are talking about with the Falcons is that trade. I kind of want to break down this trade as to why it's not as bad as people think it is. All the Falcons did was cash in the 2026 first rounder this year to get James Pierce Jr., who, like I said, I think is the most pro-ready defensive end coming out.
Mhm.
So you cash in that pick this year to get James Pierce. Yes, you give up a second. You're giving up your second, but you want to know what you do. You get that third from the Rams. You turn it into arguably the best safety in the draft. A guy I'll put it to you like this. Xavier Watts was a two-time first team All-American safety. Very rarely do you see guys drafted in the third round. People are saying like literally, we don't know if he has any weaknesses. Xavier Watts, he's always at the ball. He's running to the ball. He's a ball hawk. He's basically a carbon clone of Jesse Bates. So imagine two of them in the defensive secondary. Jesse Bates playing free safety, Xavier Watts playing strong safety. Because I think Xavier Watts is more of a hitter than Jesse Bates. But Jesse Bates isn't scared to get physical. So imagine two of them in the defensive backfield. It's scary. And then Billy Bowman out of Oklahoma, out of OU, getting him in the fourth round, I think is an amazing value as well. Because you get another safety, but you also get a freak athlete in Billy Bowman, who, if you want to put him in the nickel, in the slot, he's athletic enough and he's got the footwork to do it. And the crazy thing about Atlanta, for me, is not necessarily just the draft. It's what they did in the undrafted pool. You go and get a Nick Nash out of San Jose State. You arguably get the two best corners that weren't drafted. You go get Kobe Bryant out of Kansas, and then you go get Dante Manning out of Oregon, who's sub 4.3 in terms of his speed, and he's also a physical corner at that. So the Falcons as a whole, for the first time in a long, long time, for me, this draft is up there with like some of the greatest in the history of the franchise. Like going back to like, if I'm trying to think about some good Falcons draft classes, 2000. Well, okay, if you want to talk about the 2016 class, I mean that 2016 class, you got to start out of Deion Jones, you got to start out of Keanu Neal. I mean that was a heck of a draft class. Oh yeah, that's right. You got a starter in Austin Hooper too at tight end. So I mean,
Yes.
some of the drafts that the Falcons have made, they've had some good drafts, but I feel like this is right up there because of just sheer value at each pick. Jalen Walker, who was a projected top 10 pick, falls to 15. James Pierce Jr., who I felt like is one of the three best defensive ends in the draft and the most pro ready, falls to you at 26. And then Xavier Watts in the 3rd round, Billy Bowman in the 4th round, Jack Nelson in the 7th round was a top 250 player coming out of the draft. I think the Falcons, according to like PFF and like the analytics and all that stuff, had the best draft in terms of value. In terms of value at each pick. So I love what Atlanta did. I also love what the New England Patriots did as well. To go up to draft Will Campbell 4, but then to go and get Trevion Henderson out of the Ohio State University to pair with Ramondre Stevenson. You got a good backfield. You got a good backfield. Both of them do a lot of the same things. I think Ramondre Stevenson is probably a little more shifty of the two. Trevion Henderson is going to be a little bit more the power back, but I like the dynamic there. And I really enjoyed what the New England Patriots did in the draft. I like what the Philadelphia Eagles did in the draft. I mean, to get Jihad Campbell 31 is a crime. It is a crime in itself. And just the Arizona Cardinals as well. Shout out to the homie Donnie. Shout out to Pick and Spreads. I mean, yeah, Walter Nolan, Will Johnson. I mean, Arizona got some dogs in that draft. So, like I said, those would probably be my squads who I felt like really kind of took a step forward as far as improving themselves through the NFL draft. As far as like my picks, as far as who I like the most, it'd be Atlanta, it'd be Philly, it'd be New England, and it'd be Arizona.
I'll go New York Giants. I got to give Bears. I got to give them a lot of credit with the Bears. You got to give credit to the Bears. As far as having the worst, Cleveland.
I actually like Cleveland's.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like them taking Dylan Gabriel. I didn't like the Dylan Gabriel pick at all. Why are you gonna take Dylan Gabriel and then follow it up with Shedeur Sanders? And Shedeur Sanders being the 5th round pick is the guy that they're talking about more as being the future starter of the franchise than Dylan Gabriel. I don't know.
But I didn't like but I felt like you had Travis Hunter there with the number 2 pick, but then you traded him to Jacksonville. Now, okay, you did end up getting the 5th pick. You ended up getting that, but I'm concerned with Cleveland. Maybe I'm just being biased because of their history. Y'all know this better than anybody. Remember how they traded and they gave y'all Julio Jones
on a silver platter?
Yeah, and the reason, and not only that, they had not one but two big drafts in that time. They had not only an opportunity with Julio Jones. Few years later, they trade Trent Richardson to the
Indianapolis Colts.
For a first and a 4th. You had another opportunity then in order to get better. So big trades in all those 5 years, and you did nothing with them. So what are we doing? We're back to where we started. So that's the thing. I mean, I think that Shedeur is going to do good. The difference between the thing is, I think that Atlanta was more equipped to handle Julio Jones than the Cleveland Browns. They probably Julio would have probably been out of there in a few years when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. They had no developmental system. They had no quarterback. It was just a mess. They wasted Joe Thomas's years. It was a mess. So it was wise for Atlanta to get Julio to go along with Roddy White and some of the other players. But I have to say this, as far as Cleveland is concerned, look, you got to do your homework on your quarterback because that's the only thing you're missing at this point. So whether it be Shedeur or Sanders, we all wanted to be Shedeur, but whether it's him or Dylan Gabriel, you got to do your homework and make sure that it comes out for the best. But the best draft came from Baltimore.
I like what they did too.
They drafted Malachi Starks, Georgia Bulldog. They drafted Mike Green, and although he has some character concerns, I will say he led the league in sacks at Marshall. Not only that, they got LaShante Wilder, I think that's what his name is, from Colorado, the wide receiver out of Colorado. So they was able to do a lot of big things in that draft. And they went and got the offensive tackle out of LSU. So they did a lot of great things to add to an already stifling defense. You added Malachi Starks to Kyle Hamilton to Marlon Humphrey and that stifling defense with Raekwon Smith, who's also a Georgia Bulldog, and you add Mike Green and Malachi Starks to a team with one of the best defensive tackles, very, very underrated, if you want me to be honest with you, with Justin Medabupe and that front line. So you went and got one of the greatest pass rushers in college and one of the greatest safeties in college as well, to pair with an already stifling defense. Then you go and get another wide receiver, whether he be a wide receiver 2 or 3 from Colorado, and you pair him with Zay. So with Zay and Mark Andrews. So I think they had one hell of a draft, man. That was one hell of a draft. Philadelphia, y'all can't keep getting away with this, man. Y'all keep talking about my Lakers, how we can't keep getting – y'all can't not keep getting away with it.
What if I told you about Howie Roseman?
Because that guy is
What have I told you? What have I told you?
You told me, but good God. I'm like, man. And just when you thought, I'm like, they're not going to do this good this year. Then here come Campbell. I'm like, oh, come on, man. Y'all can't keep getting away with this. But, hey, man, shout out to the Philadelphia.
Move from Texas. They got Ty Robinson from Nebraska, Mac McWilliams from Central Florida. So they're getting. But I gotta feel good about my Commanders, man. I'm not saying that we did outstanding, but I am pleased with what we did with the offensive line. So you added Sam Cosmi's coming back. We got the offensive lineman from Oregon. We already got Laramie Tunsil in a trade. So I love that. Then you add in a deep threat in the slot receiver from Virginia Tech. So you add another dimension to the offense, the deep threat. So we still have Debo there, and Debo is looking pretty good in the offseason. Looks like he's in pretty good shape. I gotta admit, I actually love what I'm seeing from the Commanders. Although I am upset that they couldn't get a pass rush, I gotta be very pleased with what I'm seeing. But BRF Atlanta, they did their part. They damn sure did their part. I mean, I gotta be honest with you, I love the Trey Amos from Ole Miss. I love the Trey Amos pick because you're talking about a physical corner with him. And in that division, we got to deal with physical wide receivers like AJ and CD and now Malik Neighbors. So we need that. So I'm not surprised at all. Howie Roseman does his thing. BRF, I've told you before, he's the best executive in football. Somehow, some way, he keeps making these types of moves, man.
Yeah, I don't think we need to. Yeah, I don't think we need to. I don't think we can state that any more than we've already stated it. I think he's proven that time and time again, and I just think he is definitely the in question best executive in the National Football League, and that just there's nothing else to say. There's nothing else to say. When you don't think he could top himself, he goes and gets Jahad Campbell at 31. So I mean, it's like that is like easily one of the better value picks of the entire first round, if not the best value pick of the entire first round. So we cannot question. If you question, I'll say this: if you still had any questions, even though you shouldn't, if you still had any question as far as Howie Roseman, as far as how he does his job as a GM, just you shouldn't anyway. But it's like he just keeps showing you why. He keeps showing you why he's just there's levels to this. And Howie Roseman just continues to show why he is the best executive in the National Football League. He keeps doing it.
And also, shout out to our guy Broad Sports, because he made a compelling argument for Carolina. He didn't say they won or stole the draft, but you gotta admit they did make some moves. They got the wide receiver McMillan. They also got in Jimmy Horn. They also got in Trevor Etienne. They got the pass rusher from Texas A&M, Nick Scorton.
Mhm.
So I like it because now you're giving Bryce Young some more weapons to work with, and we saw Bryce Young late down in the stretch playing good football. The Indianapolis Colts, I did like the fact that they did get Tyler Warren. So Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. You have Tyler Warren with a Jonathan Taylor. You also got Adonis Mitchell. You got Alec Pierce. Anthony Richardson is in year 3 now. So we got, if it doesn't work out, we said this before, guys. If he loses the job to Daniel Jones, and if Daniel Jones outperforms him, honestly, I don't know what to say. And Chip, you weren't that high on Anthony Richardson coming out of college, the same way with Will Levis. But Champ, I got to be honest with you, man. Washington, I'm not just saying that because I'm a Commanders fan. I am very pleased. Thank God we moved on from Daniel Snyder. Thank God, but that's a story for another day. But we doing our part with these draft picks, man. A lot of these teams actually did pretty well, but what y'all think about Vegas? No surprise they took Ashton Genty. What are y'all thoughts about the Raiders overall?
BRF.
I mean, I do. I mean that the Ashton. I'll say this though. That was probably the least surprising pick of the entire first round, in my opinion, because of the Pete Carroll effect. You know, with Pete Carroll, he's going to run the ball. That is his MO, is to run the ball. And you get a guy in Ashton Genty who comes in and immediately basically could become the bell cow of your offense. So that was probably one of the least surprising picks of the first round. The fact, well, I mean, he as soon as we saw that he had fell to the Vegas pick, we was like, oh, I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, this done. This a lot. Vegas got him. Pete Carroll sees Ashton Genty basically with a bow wrapped around him. Oh yeah, come on, that was a given. That was a given. He comes in immediately, becomes a starting running back, in my opinion, and I think he's pretty much going to come into about 18 to 22, 23 carries a game. I mean, he comes in and instantly becomes the focal point of that offense. So that was like the least surprising pick in the first round, as far as I'm concerned. I do like the direction that they are going in. I mean, I believe they did get some more help on that defensive line to kind of go with Max Crosby, which is definitely needed. So they had a goal was to go out and try to address need in the draft, and I think they done that. I think they did that. Will they win? That's a question for another day. But I do like that the Vegas Raiders are trying to put a good product on the field, and I feel like Pete Carroll, his veteran, him being a vet, him being, him having him winning the Super Bowl in Seattle, him being to 2 Super Bowls with the Seattle Seahawks. He brings that leadership. He's going to bring a fire. He's a player's coach. He's a player's coach. Like he's like the dude is in his 70s and is still like I don't know, like it's like that he still has that youthful exuberance about him to get players that want to play, to get players that want to play for him. So Vegas is going to be one of those teams that could come in, even if they don't make the playoffs. Like I say this with like a handful of teams every year, they're going to be. It wouldn't shock me if they beat some teams they have no business beating. They're like one of those handful of teams.
Well, Champ has made the argument that Kansas City is not going to be where they left off, and they haven't really done much in free agency, not much in the draft either. I did like the Chargers getting Trey Harris. So you add another playmaker for Justin Herbert. You add him with him and Ladd McConkey. So I do like that component. Champ, what are your thoughts about the Raiders?
They did good. As far as the Pete Carroll effect, and I think they did a better. This is one of their better drafts. I think they did pretty good, especially drafted Ashton Jeanty and getting not only just a good running back, but a cornerstone in that franchise along with Brock Bowers. So I think that will be a good. As far as the Chargers, don't forget about Omarion Hampton.
I know, no.
Yeah, don't forget about Omarion Hampton. I think.
But the reason why I mentioned Trey Harris, Champ, because again, you want Justin Herbert throwing the football to Mike Williams, and again, I like Mike Williams from time to time, but his drops.
Yeah, but the thing is, that wasn't his main target anyway this year. His main target was Ladd. So I mean, Ladd McConkey. So
Georgia product.
Yeah. So I mean, and the thing is, he's a small receiver. He's not that big. He's like 5'10". I think isn't he like 185 BRF?
It's something like that. 185, 190, something like that. He's somewhere in that range. He's not that big.
He's not that big at all. So yeah, his favorite target was Matt McConkey this year. So to get a solid number one to go along with a receiver, you can pretty much put anywhere like a Wes Welker 2.0 when you talk about Ladd McConkey. I know it's just his first year, but he has that potential. But yeah, I mean, I think that bringing in Omarion Hampton and taking a lot more pressure off of Justin Herbert with that running game is definitely going to help. Like I said, even with Alex Smith, when he was developing Alex Smith when he first got to San Francisco, the cornerstone of that 49ers deep offense was that running game with Frank Gore.
But to your point, Champ, before, what was Jim Harbaugh known for doing for building first, as you always recommended?
Offensive line. Yeah. But they did that last year when they got Joe Alt, and Joe Alt has been doing a hell of a job.
But that's my point. Since they brought in Joe Alt, since they addressed the offensive line, now they can focus on the other needs they need to address on the offense or on the defense. And again, this is the best quarterback you've had since Andrew Luck, going back to your days at Stanford. And he's 27 years old at the prime of his career. So you got to do everything you can to protect him.